Welcome to the Science of Hockey, the podcast where we break down the science behind ice hockey. I'm the analyst, your host, and every week we explore the data, research, and evidence that shape how we play, train, and understand the game of hockey. From biomechanics to performance psychology, we take you beyond the rink and into the research lab, giving you insights that go beyond hearsay and into what really makes the difference on the ice. Whether you're a player, a coach, a parent, or just someone passionate about the sport, we're here to bring you scientifically backed information in a language that's friendly and easy to understand. So grab your skates and let's dive into the science of hockey. Welcome back to the Science of Hockey. I'm your host, the analyst, and today we're skating into the fascinating connections between training and performance. In this episode, we explore how off-ice fitness assessments, like sprints, jumps, and endurance tests, predict crucial on-ice abilities such as speed, agility, and shot power. With insights from both science and practice, we'll uncover how these findings can shape training strategies for young athletes, helping them maximize their potential on the ice. Whether you're a coach looking for an edge, a parent supporting a young player, or an athlete eager to improve, this episode delivers the tools and knowledge to take performance to the next level. So, let's get moving and hit the ice together.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into youth hockey. Specifically, we're going to be talking about off-ice training. It's a hot topic. We got a pretty in-depth research article sent in, and it's about how training off the ice can really make a difference in how those young players perform when they actually hit the ice. So that's our mission today, right? To break down all the key findings so you can figure out what kind of training might really benefit your young hockey player.
And it's a good one, this study. Brand new research, actually. Straight from the University of British Columbia. Just came out this past August.
Oh, wow. So it's really cutting-edge stuff.
It is. Published in a top-tier sports science journal, so you know it's legit. Adds a whole new layer to the conversation about how to develop young players. Awesome. Well, let's dive in. So this study looked at 11 male hockey players. They were around 10 and a half years old on average, so right in that sweet spot for development. And they put these kids through 2 full days of testing. First, they measured all kinds of fitness stuff off the ice. Then they tracked how well they actually did on the ice with drills. Speed, acceleration, agility, all that. Even measured how hard they could shoot the puck.
Yeah, and what's impressive is just how much they measured off the ice. It was extensive. I mean, we were talking everything. Height and weight, obviously.
Yeah.
But then flexibility, hand grip strength. They even did this one-leg squat test.
One-leg squat.
Yeah, one-leg squat. Turns out that's actually a test they use to check out potential NHL draft picks.
Wow, okay. So they're really putting these 10-year-olds through the ringer, huh?
Pretty much.
So the big question is, did all that off-ice testing actually tell us anything about how these kids performed on the ice? Like, was there a connection?
Oh, absolutely. A big connection. Over 72% of all those things they measured off the ice, those measurements were directly related to how well the kids performed in the on-ice drills. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about being the biggest or strongest kid out there.
Really?
Nope. Some of the strongest links they found were with agility and something called anaerobic power.
Anaerobic power. So we're not just talking about traditional weightlifting then?
Not just that, no.
Right.
For example, they had the kids do a standing long jump. That test turned out to be a really strong predictor of how well they skated overall. Sprinting, accelerating, agility, all of it. So that tells us that those explosive short burst movements, those are super important in hockey.
Oh, yeah. It makes sense. You got to change direction fast on the ice, explode out of those turns to chase the puck or get away from an opponent.
Exactly. And to build those skills, you need to train those fast twitch muscle fibers, the ones that give you those quick bursts of speed and power. So we're talking plyometrics, short sprints, anything that focuses on explosive movements. Got to build that explosiveness.
Like a coiled spring, ready to unleash.
That's the idea. But there's another piece here that I think people might find surprising. Aerobic fitness. That also played a big role in how well those kids performed on the ice. Turns out, the better they did on this 20-meter shuttle run, the better their speed, acceleration, and agility was out on the ice.
That's so interesting. I always thought hockey was all about those short bursts of energy, not really about endurance.
Right? There's this idea that aerobic fitness isn't that crucial for hockey players. But this study really challenges that. Think about it. Hockey is all about repeated shifts. You got to recover quickly between those high-intensity bursts. And having good aerobic fitness, well, that makes a big difference.
Like having a bigger gas tank, right? So you can stay in the game longer and recover quicker.
Exactly. This study's showing us that we need a more balanced approach to off-ice training. You got to have the anaerobic, but you can't neglect the aerobic side either.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about agility, explosive power, and now even aerobic fitness, all being linked to better on-ice performance. But what about that one-leg squat test, the one you said they use for potential NHL players? What did that tell us?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It did have connections to on-ice performance. A good score on that one-leg squat meant better skating speed and agility. But here's the kicker. It wasn't linked to better acceleration.
Wait, really? I would have thought that a strong one-leg squat would mean faster acceleration. What gives?
Right. It's a head-scratcher. Maybe the one-leg squat, while it's great for strength and balance, doesn't capture everything that goes into that initial burst of speed. Maybe technique or upper body strength are bigger factors than we thought.
Interesting. So it's still a valuable test, but maybe not the whole story when it comes to acceleration.
Exactly. It shows that we need to look at a variety of assessments to really get a full picture of a player's strengths and weaknesses. We're still learning a lot about how all this works.
It's fascinating stuff. But before we go any further, we got to talk about shooting power. It's hockey. You got to have a good shot. Did they find anything in the study about how off-ice performance related to how hard they could shoot the puck?
They did. And this one might surprise you. The kids who were fastest in the 30-meter sprint, they tended to have the hardest shots.
Whoa, hold on. So it's not just upper body strength that determines how hard you can shoot.
Seems like the power generated in the legs during skating, that plays a big role in generating that force for a powerful shot. It's about transferring that energy up through your body and into the puck.
So leg power is crucial for way more than just skating. It affects everything. Speed, agility, even shooting.
It's a fundamental part of hockey performance, no doubt. And this study just drives home the point that off-ice training is not just extra. It has a direct impact on what happens in those games.
It's not just about hitting the gym. It's about building a well-rounded athlete with a strong foundation in all areas of fitness.
Absolutely. Now, we've got to remember that this study focused on a specific group of players, all males, around 10 years old. So the question is, would these same findings hold true for older players or for female players?
That's a great point. Something to think about as we learn more about this, but I think the study gives us some really important insights. It's clear what you do off the ice really matters for young hockey players.
Absolutely. And it challenges some of those old ideas about hockey training. It's not just about size and strength. It's about developing a well-rounded athlete, someone who can move fast, generate power, and recover quickly.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork here. We understand the impact of off-ice training, but now let's get practical. What kind of training methods are actually effective for building those key areas of fitness? And how can coaches and parents work together to create a really comprehensive off-ice training program for their young players? That's what we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah, time to get into the nuts and bolts. How do we actually put this research into practice? I mean, one thing that really jumps out at me is that we need a multifaceted approach to off-ice training.
Right. We can't just focus on strength training, can we? Got to think about agility, plyometrics, speed drills, and like we said, aerobic conditioning. That's a bigger factor than a lot of people realize.
It's all about building that complete athlete, right?
Yeah.
You need that solid foundation across the board to really excel in a sport like hockey. It's like all the pieces of a puzzle, they got to fit together.
Okay, so how do we put those puzzle pieces together? What does a good off-ice training program look like in practice?
Well, every player is different. Age, skill level, goals, got to tailor it to them. But some key principles here come straight from the study. First off, mix it up. You got to incorporate a variety of training methods that hit those different areas of fitness.
So like plyometrics to build explosive power, agility drills for quick changes of direction, sprints for speed, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And don't forget, aerobic conditioning. Got to have it. Yeah. Running, cycling, swimming, anything that gets that heart rate up and builds stamina. Can't leave that out.
Sounds like a lot to juggle. If you're not an expert in this stuff, where do you even begin?
Well, finding a good strength and conditioning coach is a great first step. Someone who knows how to work with young athletes, especially hockey players. They can assess the individual kid, build a program that fits them, and make sure they're using proper technique.
Right. Safety first.
Always. Proper technique is so important to prevent injuries and make sure the training is actually effective.
Now, I want to come back to aerobic conditioning for a second because I think this is a real game changer. I mean, hockey training has always focused so much on anaerobic fitness, those quick bursts of power. But this research really challenges that.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in how we think about it. We're starting to see that aerobic fitness, it's not just about running marathons. It's about having the stamina to keep up a high level of play throughout the entire game, to recover quickly between shifts, even to stay mentally sharp when it matters most.
I'm thinking about those third periods when the game is on the line and you need that extra push. You've got to dig deep.
Exactly. That's where a good aerobic base comes in clutch. It's not about replacing anaerobic training. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot. Then you create a truly well-conditioned athlete.
So for young players, what kind of activities are we talking about to build that aerobic foundation?
Keep it simple. Encourage them to do stuff they enjoy. Running, cycling, swimming, even just playing other sports that involve a lot of movement. Anything that gets their heart rate up and keeps it there for a while.
So even just playing tag in the neighborhood could be beneficial.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all about being active, right?
Yeah.
Building that foundation early on. And then as they get older, you can build on it with more targeted aerobic conditioning.
It's about creating that active lifestyle.
Exactly.
This research also has some pretty big implications for coaches. It's a pretty clear message that off-ice training has got to be a priority, not just an afterthought.
100%. Coaches need to weave off-ice training into their overall player development strategy, make it core to the program.
So it's not enough to just tell the kids, go work out, right? You got to take a more active role in designing, or at least overseeing, that off-ice program.
Absolutely. Coaches should be working hand in hand with those qualified strength and conditioning professionals. Make sure that training is aligned with what hockey demands. Make sure it's safe. Make sure it's effective.
Track that progress, right? Just like you would with their on-ice skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Regular assessments, see where the players are shining, see where they might need more help. That's how you keep those players engaged and motivated to improve.
This really highlights the importance of a team effort. The coach, the strength and conditioning coach, even the parents. Everyone working together.
It's all about collaboration. Everyone on the same page, sharing information, working toward the same goal. That's when you see real growth in those young athletes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one last thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up. Remember how this study included that one-leg squat test? The one they used to evaluate those potential NHL draft picks?
Yep, and it did a pretty good job of predicting skating speed and agility. But remember, not acceleration. That was the weird one.
What if we could use those findings, though, to really pinpoint the kids who have that raw potential to make it big? Could off-ice testing be like a crystal ball for finding future NHL stars?
That's a great question. I mean, we know physical abilities are a huge part of making it to the NHL, but they're not the whole story. There's a lot more to it than that. Maybe we can explore that a little further.
So we've been digging into how off-ice training can impact young hockey players' performance.
And how this study could give us some clues about finding the next generation of stars.
Exactly. Like we were just saying, that one-leg squat test. They use that for potential NHL draft picks. Makes you think, what if we could use these off-ice assessments to predict which kids have that, that X factor?
It's a really cool idea. But we can't forget that physical ability is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. You can't just measure how high a kid jumps or how fast they skate and say, okay, there's the next Gretzky.
Nope, there's way more to it than that. Hockey sense, skill development, work ethic, mental toughness, those things matter too.
Yeah, it's like those players who maybe aren't the biggest or the fastest, but they always seem to be in the right spot at the right time. They just get it.
Exactly. That instinct, that feel for the game, those are the qualities that are way harder to measure with a test. How do you put a number on hockey IQ or a player's competitive drive? You can't.
So these physical tests can give us some clues about a player's potential, but they're not the be-all, end-all.
I see them more as a starting point, the foundation. They give players the tools to execute the skills and strategies they've learned out on the ice.
It's like having a toolbox full of all the right tools, but you still got to know how to use them.
Perfect analogy. You could have the hardest shot in the league, but if you can't hit the net or make smart plays, doesn't really matter, does it?
Right. It's about more than just raw power. This goes back to what we were saying about holistic development. We got to focus on building well-rounded players. They got to have the physical skills, but also the smarts, the mental toughness to make it to that next level.
And that all starts early on. This study really shows how important it is to build that foundation from a young age, and how important it is to use a variety of training methods to hit all those different areas of fitness.
So a balanced program is key. Strength training, yeah.
Yeah.
But also agility, speed work, plyometrics, and like we said, aerobic conditioning. Gotta have it all.
And by understanding the link between these off-ice tests and how a player performs on the ice, we can really fine-tune those training programs, help each player reach their full potential. That's the goal.
This has been awesome. We've learned so much about off-ice training for young hockey players, and it's clear this isn't just some optional add-on, it's crucial.
Absolutely. Off-ice training can make a real difference in how these young players develop and how successful they become. And it's more than just building muscle, right? It's about developing well-rounded athletes, players who have that foundation in all areas of fitness: speed, agility, power, endurance. You need it all.
But we also can't forget those other essential ingredients: the hockey sense, the skills, the mental toughness. It all matters.
It's a combination of factors that ultimately leads to success in hockey.
Yeah.
And hopefully this research gives everyone involved, the parents, the coaches, some tools to help these young players reach their full potential.
All right, so as we wrap up here today, think about what we've talked about. How can you apply this knowledge to your own training or to the training of the young athletes in your life? What can you do differently to help them succeed?
Remember, it's about that holistic approach. Focus on building a well-rounded athlete, and never underestimate the power of what you do off the ice.
That's all for today's deep dive, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this conversation about youth hockey and off-ice training. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those limits.
Thanks for tuning in to the Science of Hockey. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share it with your friends, teammates, or anyone who loves hockey as much as you do. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment to let us know what you liked, what you'd like to hear next, or any questions you have. Your feedback helps us make the show even better. Until next time, keep your skates sharp, your mind open, and keep chasing the science behind the game.